Hey everybody, so again I'm going to jump into a Bible study. This is the Bible in 52 weeks, and again the portion that I'm on right now is on page 23, and this is from, week 6, and it's about tearing down your barriers. Most of the reading was from Matthew and from Leviticus, and basically this is about some of the rules for relationships with other people. So I'm just going to read a couple of these things that might be helpful for you to think about how that might apply to you. So basically in the book of Leviticus, the children of Israel have been released from the Pharaoh. This is after the 10 plagues, and God then gives Moses the set of the 10 commandments, the 10 rules to live by. And the main point is that the Israelites had a tendency still to sin, okay? And God still wanted to have a relationship with them, meaning all of these people were in active sin. God still loved them and wanted a relationship with them. But God did not want you to just keep saying, oh, I'm sorry, and keep doing the thing over and over again. So that's why there were sin offerings and all these different meat offerings, etc., that were to make it right, in the sense of you do this action, then there's this consequence, and then this atonement has to be set. So I'm going to read this portion again. This is on page 21. It says, how many times have we wanted to cut people off because they hurt us? How many times have we vowed never to speak to someone again because they betrayed our trust? How many times have we declared that we would rather give up on a certain individual because they simply refused to listen to our loving, opinionated, sometimes unsolicited, wise counsel? We can be so quick to push people away and banish them from our lives, but that's not the order or the way of God. He not only gave the Israelites instructions for atonement, meaning if you do this and then make this offering and sacrifice, he also gave his only son, meaning Jesus, as the sacrifice for our wrongdoing, for all sin, because God loves us unconditionally, and he needed a way to redeem us for all the sin, again, the sin that was created in the Garden of Eden. God did not give up on us or see us as a lost cause. That's a really key point. God loves all of us, and he wants us to come into a perfect relationship with him. And the way that he offers that to us is through Jesus, through the cross. And he asks us to return the favor by forgiving those who have trespassed against us. And we can find a way to look past the flaws of others and maintain our covenant relationship with God. So I'm going to jump down to, okay. So if I look at, question number 1, it says, what are some of your rules for relationships with other people? What are your do's and don'ts? I'm just going to say it's pretty simple. Don't lie. Don't steal. Don't take advantage of me. Don't cheat. Basically follow the 10 commandments. It's pretty simple. Is it easy? No, but it is simple. Do you have any deal breakers? Is there anything that would utterly destroy a friendship or relationship for you? And for me, it's like, well, if you're doing business with someone and someone repeatedly doesn't show up, to me, that's not just bad character, that's integrity too. They don't have integrity. So, repeated no-shows, it's like, I'm going to cut off that person as far as business, and I'm not going to do business with them. In terms of like lies and cheating and excuses, and in terms of a personal relationship, whether it's, a friendship or like a dating, intimate relationship, not that I'm interested in any of that at this current time, but I'm just saying, like, lies, excuses, cheating, just they're deal breakers for me. What grace have you given to others? And this is, the part where people think that, oh, you're a rotten person. No, I have given many people, many people second chances, third chances, fourth, 10 chances. I have been burnt so many times by men who have claimed that they were, in love with me, who have claimed that they were being honest, but they weren't. So it's not that I'm not a person who has given many chances. It's not that I'm a person that doesn't have strong boundaries. I have strong boundaries. If you violate and do these things, these are the consequences. And a man is going to know that if they're spending time with me. Like, these are my deal breakers. If you do these things, I'm not going to have any contact with you. It's very simple. Now, in terms of God's language, God is saying, show kindness to those who have been unkind to you. And, what I'm getting at is, if you want to build a relationship with someone, okay, and you want to have like real friendships with people that are going to be there for you, you want to pay attention to their behavior. And when someone is doing something that is not in agreement to what, let's say, you've already agreed upon previously, then you need to be the bold person to stand up to your friend and say, hey, look, we made this agreement. And our agreement was that if you were going to be late, you were going to call me or text me, because we both want to respect each other's time. And you failed to call, you failed to text, you failed to show up. So that's 3 basic outs for this, example of us getting together. And I love you and I want to get together with you and I want to spend time with you. But if you're going to disrespect me and my time, then these are some of the consequences that you're going to experience if you're not going to be respectful to me. So boundaries are important in terms of having a relationship. Now, the key is people are going to violate those boundaries. Okay. Now, in one case, I can still say, well, I love my friend, even if they didn't show up, even if they didn't call, I still love the person. I dislike the behavior. I dislike the sin. Okay. You can even say, I hate the sin, the repeated blowing off of, for whatever reason, that their life got busy and they didn't inform me that, that they weren't going to be able to show up. The point is about respect. Okay. And if we want to receive respect, we also need to deliver respect. So, in this example, what I'm getting at is a worldly way is that we want others to respect us. But let's now bring it back to Jesus. Did people respect him? No. Did they violate his boundaries? Yes. Did they put him on a cross and tell him that he was this horrible person when he himself was the most perfect person that ever walked this earth? Jesus was perfect, yet he was persecuted for all of our sins. Like, he didn't even do all those things. So again, if anybody's going to illustrate the ultimate kindness, the ultimate sacrifice, it's going to be Jesus. Now, if Jesus forgave us, okay, just like he forgave the thief on the other side of the cross next to him, and the thief admits his own sin and he confesses to Jesus and he says, I'm a bad man. My whole life I lived a bad life and did evil wickedness. But you're a perfect man. You didn't do anything wrong and you're being persecuted. And he's like, will you remember me? And Jesus said, I'll remember you. And today I'll see you in paradise. Meaning that on the cross, this man is like in his last, breath of, dying and living. He's like at the end of his life. And Jesus told this man, he didn't read the Bible. He didn't, live a goodly life. He didn't do good works. He didn't, pray for people, help people, nothing. It's like he was an evil man to the core. And at the last minute, he asked God for his forgiveness while he was on the cross himself, a different cross, right? And Jesus forgave him and said, I'll see you in paradise. I'll see you in heaven. So the point is that no matter what we do, okay, it's not a get out of jail card that says, oh, you can keep sinning knowing that you're in sin. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. And that's not at all what the 10 Commandments say. The 10 Commandments are there as a guideline to live a righteous life. And God was pleased with Jesus because Jesus lived a righteous life. And we are called to live a righteous life. We are called to be an example of who Jesus is, which means that, again, I'm giving an example of my past so that it will make sense. Okay. I used to wear very tight clothing, very like what you would consider lustful clothing. At the time, I never considered that that's what I was doing, because in my profession as a yoga teacher and as, a dancer, a ballet dancer, I was always wearing very little clothing. It was part of the profession. I didn't see myself as being scandalous or whatever. But the point is to the average person who wasn't teaching a fitness class, they might look at the way I was dressed and say, wow, she needs to put, she needs to cover up her butt. She needs to wear a skirt or something. Like, she needs to be more modest. Now, in my time when I was being a fitness instructor, I was not being modest. I was not covering myself up with all these layers of clothing to hide my body. I wasn't doing that. But at this time in my life, I am, because I have a different level of understanding that, God wants us to be modest, and he wants us to, show who he is and not who we are in our ego. So I have that understanding now. Who I was before is not who I am now, meaning I have been transformed into more of a godly person image versus who I was in my ego, who was unknowingly crying out for attention, from the physical to get all the adoration and praise of, hey, you look great, I love your body, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I'm not seeking that at this point in my life. So it's a different season. It's a different context. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Okay. So we're back to page 23, and this is about, make a list of those who may need your forgiveness and try to forgive these people. So there's like a little chart, and I'll just flash it really quick. It's like a little chart, and I put people's names into the boxes of currently right now who are people that I need to continue to work on forgiveness with. And I'm going to give an example of one person just so that it makes sense. Okay. So there's this person that, I've known over my lifetime, and I know that this person has had a history of drug addiction and alcohol addiction, and simultaneously, he's a very talented craftsman, and I have worked on many projects with him during my lifetime. He's very talented, and he knows how to do carpentry, electric, plumbing, etc. Okay, he's very talented in terms of trade. But his challenge is his addictions, plural. And I've had boundaries with this person. So if I was working with him on a project, I would say, hey, I'm willing to do this project with you, and we need to get all these supplies, and this is the project, and this is the timeline. However, while we're working on this project, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. There is no smoking on the job site. There is no drug usage on the job site. There is no alcohol usage on the job site. Like, whatever you do on your own time, in your own apartment or whatever, that's on you. But while you're on the job, I need you to be clean and sober and focused on the project. Okay. Now, the point is, I can't change this person. It's up to this person to want to change. It's up to this person to want to make a difference in his life. Now, I lived that way for many years, meaning I'd hire him for projects. I'd have clear boundaries. We'd work on the project. If at any point it appeared to me that he was high or in a grumbling mode or whatever, I would just pack up my tools and I would say, hey, look, you're off today. And that's fine, but I am not going to work with you anymore today. That's the consequence of you not following and keeping our agreement. So I'm leaving now. And when you're ready to come back on the project and be clean and sober, then we can pick this up another day. But it's not going to happen today. And then I would take my tools in my truck and I would leave. That's about, again, setting healthy boundaries so that you can actually complete a project. But if someone is completely off and they're not, full out playing the game correctly, they're going to mess up. They're going to harm themselves or you. They're going to, they're not paying attention to things. If you're dealing with electricity or whatever, please, seriously, you need a person to be clean and sober to be doing those types of projects. So I would say that's it. Okay. Now, when it got to the point where this person, and this is over years, finally started to confide in me and tell me some of the personal things that were going on with him. And I listened very carefully and I said, look, I hear what you're saying and I'm sorry that these things happened to you. And I really think, like I've said before, that you need to find a church. You need to find someone that can pastor you. You need a man to pastor you. And this is really, where you're lacking. And the reason why you're lacking is because you don't have a solid foundation. You need to get into the Bible. You need to understand who God is. And so, bottom line, I was taking a trip to go to this particular area, which was where this person grew up. And I invited him to go along on the trip. And again, I told him what the requirements were. You need to be self-sufficient. You need to provide these particular things for yourself, meaning a tent or clothing or money for a hotel or whatever. And I have my van. So I was like, I'm going to be in my van. Like, it's on you to figure out what you're going to do with the hotel or whatever. And the point is, even though he gave me the words like, yeah, everything will be fine. The point is, he then tried to manipulate the situation. Okay. And the bottom line is, that is, again, what addicts and alcoholics do. They constantly manipulate the situation because they're not capable of being clean and sober and handling real life responsibilities. So they push those responsibilities onto other people. They're not honest about their situation, and they're constantly claiming that they don't have money, but yet they have money for all of their drugs and alcohol, but they don't have money for, basic life necessities. Okay. So the bottom line is, eventually on this trip, okay, we got to this church that I was interested in visiting, and this guy was like, yeah, I really want to go to this church. So he goes to the church, and he receives what was there. Like, he gets that, when you worship God, something happens to you on the inside. He met other people that were loving and kind, and I was able to, push him into the direction of where other people could support him and have conversations with him, because they were men, and I'm not going to be able to reach him in the same way that another man can reach this guy. And so, I was able to push him in that direction. And the point is, he had a very beneficial experience, but again, this was away from where he normally lives, and it was in his quote normal hometown. So it was a different comfort level for him than, I don't know, whatever. The point is, I pointed him into the direction. I planted the seeds. He got materials like a Bible and videos and audios and what have you. And at that point, I encouraged him. I stayed in a place of encouragement. But the point is, I can't be that end-all person to take him to all of his, meetings. I can't be that person to, run his life for him. And especially, he's like a coworker or a friend, on projects. He's not my boyfriend. Okay. But the point is, I led him into resources that would help him. But again, it's his responsibility to choose those resources. It's his responsibility to pick up that Bible and read it. It's his responsibility to ask God to rid him of his alcohol and drug addictions. And the reality is, he then told me that he was clean and sober. And I started to believe that based on his behavior that he truly was. And long story short, other things happen. I had a flood in my home. And as a result, he was there working on the projects to put this home back in order. And again, I appreciated his skill set. But there were some times that, again, I had to call him out of the job and say, no, you need to stop what you're doing because you're not paying attention. And I don't know what's going on with you, but you're not okay today. You're off, And again, it's like, you have to pay attention to people's behavior. And he was like, well, I don't, my ride isn't coming till whatever. And I'm like, look, I will drive you home right now. But the bottom line is, you cannot come on the job drunk. You cannot come on the job high. Like, that's unacceptable, period. Like, you're here to work, and you need to work and be clean and sober. And if you can't come clean and sober, then don't come at all. Because we're going to have to get somebody else to finish this project. Because this is what it is. Like, we're at go time and we need somebody to be clean and sober to finish it. And what I'm getting at is that this man, okay, needs forgiveness. Okay? He needs forgiveness that he's stuck in his addiction, that, you know, he's struggling in his addiction. And the point is, there's only so much that I can do. I have led him to resources. I have led him to people. I've led him to 12-step meetings. I have done everything that I know how to do to help him. I have given him Bibles. I have bought him clothing. You know, like I've done everything that I know how to do. But the reality is, it still comes back to that person's choice. If he's not ready, he's not ready. If he hasn't hit rock bottom, he hasn't hit rock bottom. And until he's ready to surrender his life, like, I can plant all the seeds that I want. Now, we're coming back to the discussion of forgiveness. Now, as a result, this man did not punch out and finish the job. There were many things that were left undone, and the majority of things were completed, but he never punched out. And as a result of persistently, you know, saying, hey, when are you coming? And then him not showing up. And, you know, and the whole point is, this is the typical experience of dealing with someone who is in addiction. They're going to not show. They're going to not show up. They're not going to call. They're going to have lies and excuses of why they didn't show. And in the end, his carelessness, his addiction caused another flood in my home after this major flood, because he didn't finish the plumbing correctly. And again, this is where you can have an agreement with someone. You can even have it in writing. You can do all the things that you know how to do to be direct with a person. But if they're lying to you, and if they're hiding what's really going on with them, meaning they're still in their active addiction, the person that's going to get hurt in the end is you. And your resources are going to be challenged. So as a result, we had another mini flood after the major flood, and had to pay for additional contractors to fix the plumbing, to redo a portion of the floors. And, you know, this person is not going to be invited back. Now, here's the point. Do I care about this person's future? Do I care about their soul? Yes. Do I pray for him? Is he on my prayer list? Yes, he's on my prayer list. He's on my forgiveness list. He's on my prayer list. The point is, sometimes people in our life, like, they are people that we're praying for because of their own life challenges that are tricky or that they're stuck in, such as drug addiction or alcohol addiction, etc. And then sometimes we're also praying to forgive the people, because those same people are the people that we are having a hard time forgiving based on the things that they did to us that caused us additional pain and suffering and financial disruption because of their addiction. So the point is, we still need to pray for them. We still need to keep them on our forgiveness list. And we still need to put surrender all of this to God and say, God, please help me to be a forgiving person. God, please help me to, be kind to this person, to be direct, but also be kind. And when I did confront him and tell him what had happened, he could not hear me, and he hung up the phone on me. So what I'm getting at is, someone who's in active addiction, they're not going to behave like a mature, responsible person. They're just not. And I didn't get angry. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't do any of that. It's just to me, it's like, okay, that's a drug addict, alcoholic in active addiction who I agreed to help out, hoping that by spending time around people who are godly people, that he would have an opportunity to have those uncomfortable conversations, to improve his financial situation by having a large job that could take him to a new level of, being able to support himself. And then also, praying with him and praying for him that he would overcome all these addictions. But like I said, the timing is not always the way that we imagine it. And sometimes that timing takes years, okay? I have been praying for this man for years. Not days, not weeks, not months. Years, okay? And it's still not fulfilled. So what I'm getting at is that person has to truly come with a repentant heart, a heart that wants to change, a heart that truly is for Jesus, a heart that is truly saying, Lord, I lay it down at your feet. Please take away these burdens and addictions away from me and transform me into someone that you will be proud of, that's a righteous, honest person. And it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened for this guy yet. And I continue to pray for him. So again, this Bible in 52 weeks, there are great resources in here for you to write things out and start to do your own journaling and answer your questions. And like I said, we all have more work to do in forgiveness. We all do. And yet God forgave us. So we need to keep that at the forefront. God forgave us. Therefore, we need to forgive others. Have a good one.